Okay, welcome to another book review. And this month we're doing Standing and Not Falling by the traditional witch, Lee Morgan. 10 out of 10 for this book. Lee Morgan's books are fantastic, by the way, if you ever want to read anything, which is, I mean, as I say, he's a traditional witch, but his books tend to, or he tries to, kind of try to bring everybody into the mix and kind of write for everybody rather than just traditional witchcraft. Brilliant books, and he also writes a lot of excellent fiction. So yeah, you can't go wrong with Lee Morgan. Let's put it that way. Now, the book itself or the title of the book itself does come from one of the three books of occult philosophy by Agrippa. The quote is, "So there is no work in this world so admirable, so excellent, so wonderful, which the soul of man cannot accomplish by its own power. Therefore, the form of all magical power is from the soul of man standing and not falling." And anyway, right, so let's get into the review itself. So Lee Morgan's Standing and Not Falling from 2019 is structured as a 13 moon workbook. Although it is subtitled A Sorcerer's Primer in 13 Moons, this is really a sorcerer's detox designed to clear the way for deeper magical practice or a fresh spiritual beginning. It positions itself as accessible to practitioners across different traditions, from witchcraft to ceremonial magic. I wouldn't say this is for the beginner. It is definitely something that a person who has been practicing for a while can benefit from, which I found kind of surprising because when we pick up a 13 moon workbook, it's usually aimed at the beginner, the typical year and a day 101 newbie material. This is definitely a pleasant surprise, though. Um, Morgan, an English Australian traditional witch living in Tasmania, brings over 2 decades of occult practice to the text, which interlaces personal insight, animist thought, ancestral work, and philosophical provocation. So let's have a look at some of the strengths first, where the book actually shines. It goes deep, fast. Morgan isn't here to give you fluffy surface level witchcraft tips. This is a book that will drag you into the murky water of shadow work, personal agency, and the way you actually relate to the world. It's philosophical, it's confrontational, and if you're willing to go there, it can be extremely transformative. The exercises actually make you do the work. So many of the occult books throw in practical sections that feel like an afterthought. Definitely not here. The activities in Standing and Not Falling, like the one on dismantling and rebuilding your beliefs, hit where it matters. They're designed to challenge you, not just entertain you, and if you commit to them, you'll see results. It's rooted in something bigger than you. There's a strong thread of animism, ancestor work, and community awareness woven through the book. Morgan reminds you that magic doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's tied to the land, the spirits, and the people you walk alongside. It's a refreshing shift away from the hyper individualist approach so common in modern witchcraft books. It's quotable as hell. Morgan has a knack for dropping lines that stop you in your tracks. Things like, "There's no such thing as magical failure, only delays in the fruition of your plans." These aren't just nice sound bites, they're ideas that stick in your head and change how you think about your practice. Now, there is actually one specific piece that I want to read to you. Let me just go and find it. This is in a chapter called Sexing the Magic. Now, doesn't actually have anything to do with sex magic. It's about exploration of gender and your own sexuality, and actually dissolving all of that into a nothingness of gender, really, and becoming different creatures and exploring sexuality from all these different angles and perspectives. It really is brilliant. But he, as I said previously, he writes a lot of fiction, And there was a piece right at the end of this chapter that he wrote, it was a fiction piece that just explores it so amazingly. The idea of how we actually trap the gods into these visions and these forms that we actually give them. You know, it's not what they give themselves, it's we give them these forms and we actually trap them into these forms. Now, this is a long piece of fiction. I just want to make sure I've got the beginning here. Yes. It is a long piece of fiction. I'm only going to read the first bit. The rest of it gets kind of very sexual, very steamy, and probably not suited for YouTube, to be honest, because that's Lee Morgan. He just doesn't hold back. But it is amazing. It is incredibly potent, incredibly powerful writing. So I just want to read this first bit about the trapping of the form. It's a conversation between a practitioner and the devil, really. His green devil eyes glimmered with undeniable charisma as he peeked out from behind the standing stone that now stood where my shadow had been. His eyes seemed to taunt me, draw me to some realization that still lay beyond him. Sometimes I wanted to shake him or slap him, or all of a sudden he was standing in front of the standing stone, leaning casually against it. His posture looked like that of a young man who might start whistling to himself or light up a smoke. But he didn't light up a cigarette. He took out a knife and came toward me. I didn't feel afraid. I had faced too many horrors before, as I stumbled and fell and tore my flesh on the briar roses along this crooked and time-rutted path. He had been my tender murderer before. The dead have nothing to fear from knives. Instead, he presented me with the hilt, and looking at him with some confusion, I took the blade from him. It was clear to me, without him needing to speak to me, that he meant for me to plunge the dagger into him. Immediately, I was shaking my head. I can't do that. He was close now. My hands were in his. As always, I trembled with excitement at his proximity. Thanks to him, I had some idea that the nature of heaven on earth lay in this experience, where everything is always renewing itself and every familiar thing remains a wonder. But you must, he smiled. It was almost impossible to say no to him when he smiled like that. People who talk about the charm of the devil know what they are talking about. For me, he added, I need you to set me free. Don't you see? He whispered with great intensity. This is your test of love. If you love me, you'll kill this form you've trapped me in. I frowned then with great consternation. I've trapped you? The idea appalled me, but he was still smiling. Not exactly, but you've trapped yourself. Do it if you love me. I gripped the dagger tightly in my hand, but I was shaking. Anyone who knows me, really knows me, and what I am capable of when the beautiful admonition of love is upon me, will know that I did it. But first, before I did, I asked him, are you a part of me? Don't limit me. Are you separate from me? Don't limit me. Are you human? Don't limit me. Smiling again. Are you a god? Sometimes. That is just brilliant. So I love this guy's writing. He is fucking amazing. All we can really say about him. All right. Anyway, so let's go on with the review. I think you can tell I get very excited about Lee Morgan's writing. So yeah. All right. So weaknesses. One of them is the writing can wander. Morgan's style is raw and unfiltered, which can be a strength, but some may feel like they're following the author down a rabbit hole with no clear end in sight. Interesting points get brought up only to be sidetracked by tangents. If you like tight, polished prose, this will test your patience. If you are like me and love going down rabbit holes, though, well, you'll feel right at home. Another point that came up was not the easiest starting point. As I mentioned earlier, not for beginners. If you're brand new to magic, this book might feel like being dropped into the deep end without a life jacket. It assumes you already know some basics. It skips over foundational training and uses references that might go over your head. It's definitely written with experienced practitioners in mind. It's also very of its moment, or one reviewer at least felt that some of the cultural references and assumptions feel firmly rooted in the late 2010s, and if you're reading this years later, parts of it might feel slightly dated or not quite in step with the current conversation in witchcraft and occult circles. However, that same reviewer stated, I struggle with this as a book for beginners, which it clearly isn't. So maybe they just misunderstood the approach completely. So now we've had a look at the strengths and the weaknesses. Standing and Not Falling is potent, transformative, and unapologetically raw. It's ideal for seasoned practitioners craving abrasive honesty and depth. The workbook setup lends itself to lived ritual, not silent shelf consumption, but it demands commitment. If you're new to magic, approach with caution. Without structural clarity or beginner scaffolding, the text can be a quagmire. But if you already dance in the shadow and want to dig in, Morgan offers rare philosophical excavation. One thing worth flagging, because I did notice one review had an issue with it, is the book's frequent reference to sex, sexuality, and erotic imagery, which I've already spoken about, but I just wanted to bring it up again. Morgan doesn't shy away from using sexual metaphors, sometimes explicit, to illustrate magical concepts, power dynamics, and the interplay of forces, and I applaud him for it. For some readers, like myself, this will be a welcome and honest acknowledgement of the body's role in sorcery, especially when he discusses the breaking down of the perception we have of ourselves and the exploration of non gender, amongst other such themes. For others, especially those squeamish about sex talk or uncomfortable with LGBTQ plus perspectives, it might feel jarring or even alienating. This is not a text that tiptoes around desire, gender fluidity, or sexual symbolism. So, if you're looking for a sex free, wholesome approach to magic, you'll have to look elsewhere. And also to note, if you are against or anti LGBTQ, you probably shouldn't be watching my channel to begin with anyway, simply because we don't want you here. So go away. So, standing and not falling isn't here to be safe or comfy. It's here to disrupt. It's clear that Morgan intends a radical initiation, ours or his own, through honesty, reckoning, and a spiritual detox. It stretches, sometimes ungracefully, but often unforgettably. If what you seek is gentle guidance, this definitely isn't it. If you want to stand your ground resolutely, face your shadow, and not fall, this might just be the catalyst. I definitely, absolutely recommend this book. I think you can tell. I just wanted to go through and check if there were any places that are bookmarked, which would be worthy of actually reading again. Let's see. So where I find myself today is, excuse the bright yellow highlighting. It's the only highlight color it seems to have on this on the Everand app. So where I find myself today is very much on the middle way in this regard. I find myself not wanting to close my mind to the inspired, half-mad geniuses of the occult world, for how much less rich and interesting would our history be without them, but not wanting my time wasted by people who come to the path purely for therapy rather than to give themselves to magical practice as a fully realized adult, ready to take responsibility for themselves and their own development. In answer to this, what I have tried to write here is a primer of the things I wish could be covered and cleared before a student even sets out on the path. Whether that setting out is solo or with a tradition that plans to guide them to initiation, I have aimed to help the new occultists stay afloat in a world where standing will code where standing will code for functionality and falling will code for totally melting down. I can't say, I don't think he actually accomplished that for the beginner, for the student just setting their feet on the path. This, as I said, this is definitely for somebody who's been practicing for a long time, or not a long time, but for at least a considerable amount of time, and wants to kind of refresh themselves to detox. Really, that's, as I said from the beginning, it really is a detox. Let me have a look what else I grabbed. For this reason, these exercises are purposely constructed to be suitable for everyone, regardless of what form of witchcraft or other magical tradition they are entering. These chapters and exercises that should go with them are meant to be read and executed in order, possibly more than once over. Whatever discipline and seriousness you put into them will determine how much you get out of them. No teacher, whether an author or in-person guide, can do the work for you if you aren't prepared to take responsibility for your own progress. So as I mentioned, he does try to pull in many different, not kind of focused on one particular tradition, but include a lot of people or a lot of practitioners. Also here, I would not want for a moment to suggest there isn't any such thing as mental illness or visions that function as disruptive hallucinations, but to believe in magic in a modern, educated, post-industrial context is to be at war. It is to hold fast to your vision against a hundred voices, many of them authoritative and clever sounding voices written with the assumption they aren't speaking to anyone who themselves sees visions on cave walls, voices that adjust their tone to patronize when they realize they are. Very important point. We do need to take into account that you're going to have some very interesting experiences, but could make you feel a bit crazy sometimes, to be honest. So just keep yourself in check. Let me try this one. My own helpers tell me that to spirits, belief looks like a series of lights all coming on at once, beginning to form a big beacon fire on the hilltop, signaling them. Societies where the whole clan or tribe believes are therefore very attractive to spirits. They will make amazing things happen once under such conditions, but won't continue unless fed and acknowledged. A lot of Westerners who aren't held and supported by a tradition that passes such law to them will have some remarkable happenings at the beginning of their career, which they often struggle to get back to. And this, I thought, this kind of encompasses a lot of different things. I mean, when you step onto the magical path and you start working magic, you light up like a beacon. And we often say this in reference to, you've got part of your foundational training needs to be protection and cleansing work, because as soon as you light up like a beacon, all of the astral parasites come to feed. But it also is an indication for other spirits, and not just other spirits, but other witches, other magic workers, kind of recognize when the beacon comes on, and they all become attracted to you. In this regard, it's talking about the spirits that come to you, and specifically in this regard, this is about working with a tribe or a clan or a coven or a group of people. If you light up like all together, you're going to have these amazing experiences. But we often find beginners, kind of talk about they did this thing for the first time. It was this incredible, amazing experience, and then they went to do it again, and nothing happened. And this is why often why is because, especially if it's in relation to working with spirits, is that we light up like a beacon. The spirits come, and they're attracted to that light, and there's also a burst of energy which gets released, and that feeds the spirits and feeds the magic and feeds whatever you were doing. But it's this initial burst that happens, and then after that, you need to find ways to then feed the spirits or feed your magic, feed yourself in this regard to keep that magic working. And that just, in one paragraph, just summed up everything I just said. Right, so let's have a look at what. Now, this is why I say this is just an amazing book. This is a lot later on in the book. Always ask a witch the silly questions. You may find she values your vulnerability more than your cleverness. Love it. Brilliant. Absolutely. It's just so quotable. What's page 134? Let's see over here. A lot of people assume magic comes from somewhere outside the body, in defiance of the body and the natural order of things, a supernatural force. But if there's an idea we could most do well to be rid of, it is this one. That's what I keep trying to say, is that you have the power, you have the potency, the ability to do all of this work. You don't need to go outside yourself and look for other spirits and supernatural forces to do it for you, because they're not going to do it for you. You have to do it all yourself. And this is something we need to come back to realizing, you know. All right, 172, go to this page, 190. This was the chapter on ancestral working in this was actually really, really good as well. Brought up a lot of things that I haven't considered for a long time, or never considered before, actually. Ancestors can possess distinct biases towards certain behavior over others, such as being pro-reproduction, even when your circumstances don't really favor the idea. This is part of the reason why your ancestors shouldn't just consist of your dead blood kin, but are representatives of groups that have gone up to making your life in general. Who among the dead do you have to thank for your life, for the life you live today, and how can you honor them also? Again, keep repeating these things, you know. When we talk about ancestor work, it's usually thought of as being, sorry, my Audacity just crashed, as being only working with your blood relatives, and that's absolutely not true. Oh yeah. Much of the issues we face as a society today seem to be repetitions of recent history, and this is no accident. It is because we are not taking care of the dead, we are not satisfying their grievances, we are making them memorials outside in town squares instead of part of our lives. And so parts of our human world, a place supposedly for the living, are slipping into hell worlds, acting our historical loops of conflicts that seem unbreakable. In the grip of these fate loops, if people find the word hell too confronting, we lose access to other modes of being within the human realm, let alone those outside of it. Very, very true. That was, go to the next one. I think there's one or two left. Okay, so carrying on with the next one. This is mostly about, this is at the end of the book, just talking about the approach itself. Although this book is aimed at any practitioner or future practitioner of magic, it is written from a witchcraft perspective, as the author is himself a witch. I don't believe that fact makes it any less applicable to other traditions or paths. In fact, I think it is key to the unexpected quality of some of the angles these exercises come at you from. All right, so just reinforcing that the idea that, you know, this was written for different, you know, not just witches and traditional witches. Okay, so obviously I recommend this book. I don't think I need to repeat that. Links to the book on Amazon are in the description. And if you do want to go get yourself a copy, definitely do. And yeah, as always, if you do go and buy from Amazon, or you follow one of my Amazon links, and even if you go buy something else, that's fine. I get a small commission from the sale. It doesn't just change the price of the purchase, or the purchase price that you actually have, but it does give me a small commission, and then I can use that to buy more books to review. All right, so I'm going to end that there, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio. Bye now.